Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a great weekend. It was a pretty interesting one, politically speaking, and we're going to talk all about that. We got a great story for you because today starts the SCOTUS hearings, the confirmation of Donald Trump's third pick to the U.S. Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett, I believe, hoping I'm saying her name right. But Kamala Harris, you know, she was all out in front in the Kavanaugh hearings. Well, some people expect her to be all out in front during this hearing, so we'll talk about her SCOTUS moment and what it could mean for the confirmation moving forward and the Harris-Biden or Biden-Harris campaign. And then we're going to stick with the Biden-Harris or Harris-Biden campaign because we've got a story about some tricky issues, according to the New York Times, that they've got to navigate between now and November 3rd. And tricky only because they're a bit dishonest, but we'll expand on that in just a moment. But before we go any further, I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU. We're live every day, Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or as close to it as we can get. And we're in the Big Daddy Unlimited studios. We're also rebroadcast as a late night show on America's Voice News Network. You can download Android and iPhone apps. We're on Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, as well as Channel 219 Dish Network and the Pluto channel. So you can check us all out there. But no matter when or where you're watching the video, also remember we got a YouTube channel. Spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. No matter when or where you're watching our video, if you'll look above it, you'll see a description of what we're talking about for the day. Scroll down in that description and you will see our sponsorship link, and it will take you to Big Daddy Unlimited, as I say, otherwise known as BDU, where you will find factory direct pricing on all things Second Amendment, shipped directly to your door, guns, ammo, tactical gear, thousands of products, you name it. 99 cents for the first 1 month, virtually a free trial, then $10 after, $4 of which goes to help support the show here, John Martin Talks. Cancel at any time, but once you see the savings, I'm pretty sure you won't do that. Big Daddy Unlimited. All right, let's get on with this thing. New York Times story, Supreme Court hearing presents a big stage and a big risk for Harris. Talking about Kamala Harris, the VP pick for Vice President Biden, or former Vice President Biden. Some people are basically saying, and I'm happen to agree with them, that it's really the Harris-Biden ticket. That's becoming more clear all the time, and I'll expand on that in a few moments. But, you know, that picture right there, if you've seen, this was Kamala Harris in the Kavanaugh hearings, and she kind of took the lead for the Democrats. And you may remember that at the time, she was running for president, and so was our good friend Spartacus, otherwise known as Cory Booker. And a lot of people said that that was the primary, the Kavanaugh hearings between Booker and Harris, which they both flopped, by the way. But Harris obviously was resurrected by the Biden campaign. Let's get into the meat of this story. Take my little break for just 1 second. I'm John Martin, not Dean Martin, so it's a little bit of diet soda is all it is. Just seconds into the Supreme Court confirmation hearing of Justice Brett Kavanaugh in 2018, Senator Charles E. Grassley, he was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee at the time, was interrupted by a sharp demand to be recognized from far down the Democratic side of the dais. We're going to play you this video. This is the very opening of the Kavanaugh hearings. It kind of showed you the direction the Democrats were going. It kind of shows you what direction they might try to go today, assuming they show up, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But I want you to listen to Kamala Harris interrupting Chairman Grassley. Of course, he perseveres, which is exactly what the Republicans need to do now. But listen to the Democrats, how they're just rude and all they're trying to do is block up and delay the hearing. Then expect similar tactics today. But check it out. This is from the Kavanaugh hearings, very opening remarks by Democrats led by Kamala Harris.
I welcome everyone to this confirmation hearing on the nomination of
Mr. Chairman.
Brett Kavanaugh
Mr. Chairman.
to serve as Associate Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be
Supreme Court
recognized
of
for
the
a
United
question
States.
before we proceed. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized to ask a question before we proceed. The committee received just last night, less than 15 hours ago, 42,000 pages of documents that we have not had an opportunity to review or read or analyze.
You're out of order. I'll proceed.
We cannot possibly move forward, Mr. Chairman,
I
with this
extend a
hearing.
very warm
We have
welcome
not
to
been
Judge
given an
Kavanaugh,
opportunity to have a meaningful
his wife,
hearing on
Ashley.
this nominee.
their two daughters,
Mr. Chairman,
Their
I
extended
agree with my
family and
colleague,
friends.
Senator Harris. Mr. Chairman,
Judge
we
Kavanaugh's
received
many law
42,000
clerks,
documents that we haven't
and
been able
everyone else
to
joining us
review last
today.
night, and we believe this hearing
I
should be
know this is an
postponed.
exciting day for all of you here, and you're rightly proud
Mr. Chairman,
of
if
Judge.
we cannot be recognized, I move to adjourn.
The American people.
Chairman, I move
get
to adjourn.
hear directly from Judge Kavanaugh later this afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn. Mr. Chairman, we have been denied real access to the documents we need to advise.
Chairman,
and
regular
consent,
order is called for.
which turns this hearing into a charade and a mockery of our norms.
Well-
And Mr. Chairman, I therefore move to adjourn this hearing.
Okay.
It's a mockery, all right. The Democrats have turned all of our institutions into a mockery. But that was the opening salvos, if you will, of the Kavanaugh hearing. Now, keep in mind that the Democrats were not saying that it was unconstitutional like they are now for Trump to appoint Kavanaugh. They were just trying to stop the pick, period. It wouldn't have mattered who President Trump picked. They were going to trump up some type of reason to stop it. That's all it is. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do today. Now, there has been reports that the Democrats may boycott the meetings altogether, and that they may at best chime in, and Kamala Harris even talks about that, and we'll get into it in a minute, remotely and all that kind of stuff. But I believe that I have full confidence in Lindsey Graham, and I've not always been a fan of Lindsey Graham, but I have full confidence that he will shepherd this thing all the way through, and I hope he takes a cue from Chairman Grassley and just perseveres and pushes right on through this, because the Democrats are not going to give Ms. Barrett a fair hearing. It's just not they're not capable of doing it. In fairness to them, they're simply not capable of doing it anymore. The current Democratic Party is not capable of exercising the basic rights and freedoms and responsibilities under the U.S. Constitution. I'm not giving them a pass on it, but in fairness to them, I just don't think they're capable of it anymore, man. It's just unbelievable. Now, maybe the coronavirus, and I say this with all due seriousness to the coronavirus, maybe some aspects of it will save us from some of this, because the Democrats may not show up. So we'll see. Back to the story. Ms. Harris' dogged effort to delay the hearing, talking about the tape we just played, Justice Kavanaugh went on to be confirmed after a searing fight featuring sharp questioning by the senator. Questioning. Now, I could play you a bunch of videos from that. We're not going to do that. But the Democrats and Republicans are the same way, really. When was the last time you actually heard questions being asked? I mean, even the moderators of some of these debates we've had with the vice president and Harris and Pence and Harris, and of course Trump and Biden, they don't really ask questions as much as they make statements. I mean, Chris Wallace. I wish we had Mike Wallace. He's probably better than his boy, but Chris Wallace literally would make declarative statements before asking a question. And of course, President Trump would see that as a challenge and chime in on it. The same thing happens in these hearings, especially the Democrats. Now, I say Republicans are guilty of it from time to time as well. Politicians, I guess I should say, are guilty of it. but the Democrats will make statements. They won't actually ask questions. Do you remember when Barr went before one of the House committees recently where they would ask him a question and he would try to answer it, and that they would say, "Oh, you're stepping on my time. You're stepping on my time." Like all we really want to hear from is the senators. You know, if we just wanted to hear from the senators really on both sides of the aisle, we'd just go into the bathroom and push one of those hand dryers, because that's all that comes out of their mouth anyway is hot air. But I'll be interested to see if the Democrats actually ask any questions, because they normally don't. Today, back to the article. Today, she, talking about Kamala Harris, remains the lowest ranking Democrat on the panel. Maybe stay that way. But when the Judiciary Committee convenes on Monday to consider the nomination, which is today, of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, Ms. Harris will take on an outsized role in the proceedings as the party's vice presidential nominee. Almost as many eyes will be on her as on Judge Barrett. So what are they saying? The New York Times, are they saying that Ms. Harris is eye candy only? I mean, we know that she is to a certain extent, I suppose. But I can tell you, Democrats, you just need to do like this meme right here says when it comes to the judge. Just grin and bear it, baby, because the Republicans need to push this thing on through, get this lady out of the hearing, confirmed and appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. They need to absolutely get her confirmed before the election, and I believe it will happen. If the only thing would stop it is if the Republicans lose their spine, which they have done in the past. But her seat on the panel, talking about Ms. Harris, a prominent platform will provide her with a prominent platform to frame the stakes of Judge Barrett's nomination for voters and amplify the message that Joseph R. Biden Jr., the party standard bearer, is pressing on the final weeks of the campaign. So what is Biden actually pressing? He refuses to answer questions about packing the court and things like that, right? I mean, he's multiple times. He did it again Saturday. And of course, Kamala Harris in the debate with Pence, she refused to answer the question. But Biden has already answered the question. Now, Kamala Harris has said that she is for packing the court. She'd be open to it. But Joe Biden, on two different occasions, literally decades apart, said that he was opposed to packing the court. In fact, he called it a ridiculous notion. But now, of course, he won't even answer it. You don't have to take my word for it. Take Joe Biden's word. Check it out.
The idea of adding justices to the court, which Vice President Biden refuses to give his answer on. What's bizarre about it to me is that Biden has already answered this question on whether he supports expanding the court. Take a listen to him in 1983 and then again just a year ago.
President Roosevelt clearly had the right to send to the United States Senate and the United States Congress a proposal to pack the court. But it was a bonehead idea. It was a terrible, terrible mistake to make.
I would not get into court packing. We had 3 justices. Next time around, we lose control. They had 3 justices. We began to lose any credibility for the court has at all.
Biden opposes adding justices to the court. He has for decades. So why is he refusing to weigh in on it now?
Because Donald Trump and the Republicans don't get to set the terms of this debate.
That's good enough.
This is a distraction that they want to throw out. This is a hypothetical that they want to throw
out. Trump. Did you get that? It's Trump's fault. Now, I will say, for one of only a few times, I actually agree with Joe Biden of the past, a couple decades ago and just last year. It's ridiculous, bonehead, as he said, idea to pack the courts for the very reason he said. One group's in power, they pack the court. The next thing you know, you got 100 Supreme Court justices up there. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense unless 2 things. One, it only makes sense if you view the court as a super legislative body, which clearly the Democratic Party of today, that's how they view the court, period. That's what this is. That's why they're so crazy about Kavanaugh's appointment when he got confirmed. Why they're so crazy now, potentially, about Ms. Barrett's appointment to the Supreme Court, because the Democrats view the Supreme Court as a super legislative body. Republicans, conservatives in general, view the Supreme Court as a protector of the Constitution. There's a huge difference. And actually, it is supposed to be the third branch of government to protect the Constitution. That is the primary role of the Supreme Court, period. That's just not my opinion. It's true. It's an opinionated, but a fact nonetheless. So, but Harris is, she's already been for it. So why is Joe Biden, who clearly answered this question 2 different times, as Tapper pointed out, surprised that he would go that far, why is he not answering it now? It's very simple. Because he's trying to hold on to the Bernie vote, the Ocasio-Cortez vote, all of that. He is trying to walk the line and present himself as some type of centrist, which we'll talk about that in a moment as well. But it will also talk about, back to this Supreme Court hearings of today and Harris's potential role, and this is again from the New York Times, but it will also require her, talking about Harris, to strike a delicate balance, one that she has been forced to collaborate ever since she joined Mr. Biden on the Democratic ticket. Because she was, of all the people in the debates running for president, she was the harshest against Biden, more so than any of them. That was her highlight moment, if you will, and she went downhill from there. It was attacking Joe Biden. So it's kind of interesting that she's had to go back on everything she stood for to stand with Joe Biden, which is not surprising because she don't stand for much. She's better, instead of vertical, I think more of a horizontal person. But Democrat join Mr. Biden on the Democratic ticket between being on the attack and coming across as sincere and broadly appealing. Sincere and broadly appealing. Check out this meme, and there's so much truth to this meme, it's unbelievable. Donald Trump has been called a racist ever since before he got elected, right? But Harris called Biden a racist in the debate, and now she's joining hands with him. I mean, it's just unbelievable what they're willing to do to get power. One thing, if you haven't figured this out yet, there's two. Let me just identify Joe Biden. Joe Biden has wanted to be president probably since he was in middle school. Since the day he got into the U.S. Senate 40-some years ago, he has tried to become president. That's what he has always dreamed of being. There's no doubt. And I'm not knocking him for that, but that's all he's been about. His entire career has not been about passing any meaningful legislation, unless you consider high credit card interest meaningful legislation, because Biden's all about that, and locking up your little predator children if you're Black America, that super predators, he's all about that. But other than those two things, he's done squat. He really is all about running for president. And like I say, I'm not really knocking him, it's just a fact. Kamala, so that's how you understand Biden. This is a dream come true for him, where he's always wanted to be. Kamala Harris is all about power and her own aggrandizement. She will, and I mean this absolutely literally, she will do anything, I mean anything, to get power. There's just no doubt about that. So you can understand them by understanding those two truths. Said Senator Chris Coons, Democrat, he took Biden's place in the Senate, by the way. Senator Chris Coons, Democrat from Delaware, fellow member of the panel, he said Kamala Harris has already shown herself to be well-grounded, definitely grounded, and well-prepared, but also able to ask pointed questions. As I say, what questions? She will help make clear, this is what Coons said, clear to the American people the enormous consequences of Judge Barrett being confirmed to the Supreme Court. And he's right about that. It is a big consequence to get Ms. Barrett nominated to the Supreme Court. That's why they need to just get her done, get the job done, and get her confirmed before the election. But it says here, she has been well schooled. Yeah, she has. There's no question about it. Kamala Harris has been well schooled. She was without a doubt, and there's quite a few that have apparently gone through this school, but she is the star pupil of the Willie Brown Let's Rise Together school, man. I mean, there is no doubt. I don't know how well she'll do in her chair, but from the couch, she has risen to tremendous heights, man. As I said, Kamala Harris will literally do anything for power. Maybe that's why old Sniffing Joe picked her. I don't know. At old Oval Office, I mean, Joe, just understand that Bill Clinton beat you by quite a few years. Ms. Harris is not the only member of the committee in the middle of a contentious race. 4 Republicans that are on the panel, including the chairman, Lindsey Graham, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, which he seems to be doing better now that his Democratic guys basically had to admit he's had multiple affairs during the campaign, Joni Ernst of Iowa, and John Cornyn of Texas. I don't think he's in any trouble. I don't know about Joni. I think she'll end up too. I think all of them will end up winning. Also face the voters in a matter of days. They hope to use the hearings to bolster Republican enthusiasm while avoiding any political missteps. All they need to do to bolster Republican enthusiasm is to confirm Miss Barrett before the election. That's all they got to do. And they just need to take a page from Mr. Grassley, who was the former chair, you saw in the video, and just push forward. Because it would be one thing if the Democrats wanted to give this lady a fair hearing. That is the last thing they want to do. They're just trying to gum up the works. That's all they want to give. They want the Supreme Court to be a major political issue in the 2020 election. So they don't want anybody appointed so that they can, not just get their own people up there, but get Biden elected. In the debate, Ms. Harris sought to drive home the point, talking about the debate between her and Mr. Pence, that Republicans were rushing the nomination against historical precedent, noting that Abraham Lincoln in 1864, remember this part of the debate, deferred his opportunity to fill a Supreme Court seat that came open only weeks before the election. Let me just calm down and state this for the record. In case some of you out there were thinking, oh, Harris really did her work. No, it was a complete lie and fabrication. The story about Abraham Lincoln is a 100% total work of fiction. And the media is not calling it out. They don't even mention it. They actually act like it's true the way they're writing this. Let me just tell you very quickly what happened. Now, you got to keep in mind at that time that people were coming back and forth to Washington by horse and buggy, right? They weren't flying in. They weren't training in like old Joe Biden did and everything else. The Senate was out of session at the time that the Supreme Court nomination came up. You couldn't simply just call them back into session. It didn't work that way in those days. The Senate was out of session. Abraham Lincoln waited till in December when they came back into session, and the very first day that the Senate was in session, he made his appointment. The very first day. So at the very first opportunity he had to make the appointment, he did. So all that other stuff is a lie totally, and totally disingenuous. They know that. But the media just let it pass. Nobody. And old Kamala, she thought she was so smart. But she's just a liar. But a lot of liars are pretty smart. But Kamala went on to say, Joe and I are very clear the American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime. And it is the voters' decision in the sense that they get to elect the people that make the decision, the president and the Senate. That's it, right? Well, the voters have spoken twice, because contrary to what Biden is saying, now you could argue whether it's appropriate or not, or whether it's, all that is true. You could argue that, but you cannot argue the constitutionality of what President Trump is doing and what the Senate is doing. It simply, whether you agree with the decision is another story. It is absolutely constitutional. And on that, the voters not only voted once, but twice. Because in 2016, they voted to elect Donald Trump. They voted to have the House, which doesn't really matter in this situation, and the Senate be Republican-led, right? Now, in 2018, the voters spoke again. They got rid of the majority for the Republicans in the House. I give them that. But in the one instance where it had an impact on the Supreme Court, what did they do? They not only returned the Republicans to power in the Senate in 2018 in the blue wave, they actually increased the Republican side of the aisle in the Senate. So on the 2 times that voters had the chance to speak to this ability for Donald Trump and the Senate to confirm a Supreme Court justice whenever it came open, they voted not once, but twice to give President Trump and the Republicans the power. And as Barack Obama so famously, and I agree with him all the time, and this is the case 100%, elections have consequences. And the consequence of 2016, reaffirmed in 2018, is that the Republicans and Donald Trump have every right to appoint this justice, and they need, I can't say this enough, they need to get it done and her confirmed before the election. Swearing in, I'm not too worried about, because that can happen in a minute, basically. But confirmed is what needs to happen. On Sunday, Ms. Harris announced that she would instead monitor because originally she said she was going to be in the hearing, physically in the hearing. But now she said she's going to monitor the proceedings from her Senate office. You know, the couch is more comfortable in there. Reinforcing the Democratic argument that Republicans are acting irresponsibly in pushing forward with the hearings, even as the coronavirus has infected members of the committee. So she's going to be in her office. I wonder if she'll be fed questions. Will there be a teleprompter there where they just cut her in and out and give her questions, man? I tell you, her and Biden are really profiles in courage, right? She won't even go into the hearing, for God's sakes, man. After her selection by Mr. Biden, Mr. Trump accused her of being extraordinarily nasty, talking about when she was attacking Kavanaugh, to Justice Kavanaugh in her questioning statements more than questioning. In the debate, Mr. Pence recalled that Ms. Harris had questioned another judicial nominee's views. This was on a lower court hearing. Views because he belonged to the Knights of Columbus, an organization for Catholic men. Now, there have been questioning. Ms. Barrett was questioned by the senator from California about whether or not her religious dogma, because she's Catholic, would overpower her. Now, we've heard this Catholic question before, have we not? Back during President Kennedy's election to president, we heard about the, quote, Catholic question. I want to play you a snippet from a terrific speech that John F. Kennedy made about religion. This is kind of in the middle of it. I would encourage you to watch the whole thing at some point. It's about 6 minutes long. Maybe I'll post it up on my Facebook site. But listen to what he says, and as you're listening, think about how far the Democratic Party has strayed from the principles that Mr. Kennedy was representing at the time. Check it out.
And where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source. Where no religious body seeks to impose its will, directly or indirectly, upon the general populace or the public acts of its officials. And where religious liberty is so indivisible that an act against one church is treated as an act against all. For while this year it may be a Catholic against whom the finger of suspicion is pointed, in other years it has been, and may someday be again, a Jew, or a Quaker, or a Unitarian, or a Baptist. It was Virginia's harassment of Baptist preachers, for example, that led to Jefferson's Statute of Religious Freedom. Today I may be the victim, but tomorrow it may be you, until the whole fabric of our harmonious society is ripped apart at a time of great national peril. Finally, I believe in an America where religious intolerance will someday end, where all men and all churches are treated as equals, where every man has the same right to attend or not to attend the church of his choice, where there is no Catholic vote, no anti-Catholic vote, no block voting of any kind, and where Catholics, Protestants, and Jews, at both the lay and the pastoral levels, will refrain from those attitudes of disdain and division which have so often marred their works in the past, and promote instead the American ideal of brotherhood. That is the kind of America in which I believe, and it represents the kind of presidency in which I believe. A great office that must be neither humbled by making it the instrument of any religious group, nor tarnished by arbitrarily withholding its occupancy from the members of any one religious group.
That's good enough.
I believe in a...
I mean, how far have they strayed? And, boy, you could play a lot of what Kennedy said. You love him, hate him, whatever. He was an inspirational type figure to a lot of people. And I got to admit, he's one of the reasons why I hung in with the Democratic Party as long as I did, because it was some of the principles that he talked about. They still resonate with me today, I got to say. But how far has the Democratic Party strayed? He talked about religious liberty. The mere fact that he's talking about religion and spirituality in such gravitas terms right now, because basically the Democratic Party, not all Democrats, I got to say that from time to time, I'm talking about the leaders of the Democratic Party, they are anti-religion. Just look at how much they're celebrating right now how you can't go to church. You can't go to church. De Blasio and Cuomo, I played this last week. Check out our podcast. Like I told you, several ways to do that. YouTube channel, one of the best. We need more YouTube people. Spell it all the way out. John Martin Talks on YouTube. But Cuomo literally said that I had the power. He said he would go into Jewish communities and he would have to talk to black preachers about not attending church or not going to the synagogue. This is where we've come to. Last night, and I hadn't been watching it, but I know that the Lakers won the NBA championship, right? So what happened in LA? Not as big as it might have been because they played here in Florida, but there was a police car burn. There was all kind of stuff. It wasn't a full-scale riot. It was mostly peaceful, but there was all kind of stuff. And if you looked at it, no one hardly wearing masks, densely in there, and that was okay. But going to the synagogue or going to church, no. Not in Democrat-held place. In Florida, it's okay now. People are celebrating being able to go back to church right now. I can tell you that where I live. But not with the Democrats. It's not that way. And I like how he said something. I don't know if you caught that, but he talked about different no block voting. In other words, some group just automatically voting one way all the time. Well, the Democratic Party, that is what they are all about, period. So everything that Kennedy warned about then is basically the way the Democratic Party operates. I hadn't said this in a while, but if I say it, it bears repeating. The Democratic Party, what they do is they chop everybody into little groups. They get them all pissed off, and then they try to unify them with a common boogeyman. Usually it's just Republicans in general. Now it's bad orange man, Donald Trump. He's the perfect one for them to do that to. And that is their entire strategy. That is Biden's and Harris's complete campaign. It's not a pro anything, it's just anti-Trump. Tell me where I'm wrong. I've been putting this out and no one has risen up. So tell me on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching, tell me why you support Joe Biden without mentioning Donald Trump or any of his policies. Tell me why you are passionately for Joe Biden and why he's the best person to lead this country without saying anything about Donald Trump. Because I guarantee you, I know I can, and Trump supporters can tell you 100 things that there are reasons to voting for Donald Trump without mentioning Joe Biden at all. I can tell you that right now. Back to this article. In the Kavanaugh hearings, Ms. Harris quizzed the nominee on a variety of topics such as abortion rights. That's all this is about. And Mr. Trump's comment about white supremacist rally in Charlottesville in 2017 that there was to blame on both sides. So no wonder Biden picked her, because she's pushing the lie, and it is a lie. Joe Biden opened his campaign with a lie. He said the same lie in his acceptance speech for the Democratic nomination, and Harris in the Kavanaugh hearing said the same lie, Vice President Pence, I hope one day he might be President Pence, a little Freudian slip there, but he exposed this in the debate the other night. It is a lie. President Trump never said there were good people on both sides, referencing the white supremacists and Antifa and the Nazis and all that. He said there were good people on both sides of the statue issue of whether or not to keep a Robert E. Lee statue in that park in Virginia. That's what he said. There were good people on both sides. And less than a minute after that, he completely condemned white supremacists and Nazis and everything else. So the whole thing is a lie. This whole thing with the Supreme Court is about the attitude of the Democrat, the leftists that control the party. They see the Supreme Court as a super legislative body. And in this particular case, it is all about abortion. Period, man. SCOTUS picks are no longer, especially with the Democrats. Republicans may be guilty of some of it too, but the Democrats are over the top. It's not a fact-finding situation in any way, shape, or form. It is raw political power. That's all it is for the Democrats, and Republicans just need to accept that it's all about raw political power, and in this case, use it. Use your raw political power that the voters gave you and push this confirmation through before the election, period. Anything else is just a waste of time. All right, we got a few minutes left. We want to get into this second story here. These are four, according to the New York Times, four tricky, like trick or treat, I guess, issues for the Biden-Harris 2020 election ticket. Biden-Harris, or is it Harris-Biden? I can't ever really determine. It looks like in this picture it's Harris-Biden. I want to play you a video, and we played a little bit of this Friday, I believe it was, about Arizona, some rallies. And there's reports, by the way, that they had some rallies and no one showed up. But I want to play, this is a news story from a news source in Arizona talking about the campaigning that Biden and Harris, or Harris and Biden, were doing. I want you to notice that in every single incident, who is the person leading the way and basically telling Biden, hey, catch up, man, catch up here. Check it out.
Today, before heading to their first stop, the Herd Museum in Phoenix. There they were joined by Cindy McCain, who of course endorsed Joe Biden just a couple weeks ago. They all met with tribal leaders just hours after releasing a new tribal policy. From there, they traveled here to the Carpenters Union, speaking to a crowd of about 20 early voters. Biden addressing a number of issues, including health care and veterans. He also talked about his relationship with John McCain. Take a listen.
That's good enough.
We used to argue like hell.
That's good. Did you notice, though, that basically Harris is leading every time when they come in, and she basically turn around, are you still with me? Like he's an elderly person with senility, or a child, which sometimes, what does the Bible say? Something about once the man, twice the child. Well, Biden certainly portrays that, but she's leading the way all the time. So it's definitely the Harris-Biden ticket. There's really no doubt about that. During the vice presidential debate last week, several issues came up, including the Supreme Court, climate change, and taxes, that underscore the tightrope that Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris are trying to walk as they seek to balance appeals to progressive and moderates alike. A tightrope. So they're trying to walk this tightrope. Does Trump have a tightrope? Really? Does he? I mean, Trump just goes out, promises made, promises kept. If anything, some of his handlers try to hold back Donald Trump, right? One thing, love him, hate him, or whatever, Donald Trump doesn't hold anything back. He simply comes out tightrope, man. He walking like the boss that he actually is. But Harris and Biden, by his own admission of New York Times, they're walking a tightrope, man. Wow, you might fall off that thing. President Trump and Republicans have used these issues in particular in their attempt to paint Mr. Biden and Ms. Harris as prisoners of the party's left wing. Well, they are. Of course, Harris is not a prisoner of it. She is the left wing, man. And Mr. Biden, who has substantial lead in the polls, has run as an unapologetic centrist. He's got the same lead, basically, that Hillary Clinton had about this time. We saw how that went. But let me just tell you, I've been saying this for a while now. There are no centrists in the Democratic Party. Go back and look at the 2020 field, and let me just tell you, there are no centrists. I'm going to play an oldie but a goodie. It's only not even a year old, but this is a short portion of a 2020 debate, and I know Biden was up there, I believe Kamala is as well, where they show you, without a doubt, that there is no centrist running for president, period, on the Democratic ticket. Check it out.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
They all raised their hands. So in other words, just to make sure you translate this correctly, they're saying that they are all for giving free government paid for medical care to illegal immigrants. Anyone who jumps across the border, busts across the border. I mean, you can say you're for that, but understand that that is not a centrist position. That is, and that should be one of the things the election is about, because if that ever actually happens, and I have no doubt, I take these progressives at their word, that if Biden and Harris become president, Harris-Biden, and the Democrats control Congress and pack the Supreme Court, which is all the things that will probably happen if the Harris-Biden ticket actually wins, that they will do exactly what they just said on that stage, and that will be the end of America. Because no country can have an open border and say we're going to give free health care to anyone who can get here by any means. That's the end of the nation. There's just no doubt about that. Here's how the Democratic ticket, back to the story, has tried to thread the needle or walk that tightrope or simply ignore four key policy issues, which is their basic strategy. Expanding the size of the court. Now, we've been talking about that, and so I'm not going to get into too much detail. It said the issue, however, is complicated for Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris. No, it's not. They're for it. Joe Biden won't even answer the question now when he answered it 2 times before, one time less than a year ago, that he thought it was a stupid idea. But Mr. Biden, who served for years in the Senate Judiciary Committee and led for a time, has expressed opposition to expanding the Supreme Court, while Ms. Harris has said that she was absolutely open to it. So if Biden is actually the candidate for president, he's already answered it twice. Why didn't he just answer it again? Because he's not in charge. He's not in charge. Harris and the Ocasio-Cortez, the squad, what I call the Twitter twats, hadn't said that in a while, but I think it's a better description. They're in charge. Biden is a Trojan horse, period. Vice President Pence had that absolutely right. Ms. Harris and Mr. Pence also tussled over the issue during the debate, with Mr. Pence demanding a straight answer. I don't know if he just said the voters deserve a straight answer. And Ms. Harris to reply. And here's the question ultimately, ladies and gentlemen. Can you win the presidency without answering questions? Just saying, literally looking in the camera and saying, I'm not going to answer that. Or by not even really campaigning. Because if Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, whichever flip a coin, actually wins, they'll actually be telling American people, I'm not answering these questions. And I'm not campaigning. And I'm going to win. I mean, that's what they say, man. If you're wondering about if you want to know how they could do that, how is it possible that a person can run for president, a ticket, not answer questions, and virtually not campaign and still win? It is possible. Ted Koppel, a couple of years ago, was interviewed, and he tells you, famous of ABC News Nightline. Some of you may not remember him, but he gives a very honest answer as to if Biden and Harris win, why it will be possible. Check it out.
Host Ted Koppel did something brave recently. He said something that was obviously true. During remarks to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, Koppel said the press has abandoned objectivity and is now pursuing a political vendetta.
I'm terribly concerned that when you talk about the New York Times these days, when you talk about the Washington Post these days, we're not talking about the New York Times of 50 years ago. We are not talking about the Washington Post of 50 years ago. We're talking about organizations that I believe have, in fact, decided as organizations that Donald J. Trump is bad for the United States.
There you go. That's good enough. And Ted Koppel, and I give credit to Tucker Carlson for that video. Ted Koppel is not a conservative. In fact, he is a flat out classic liberal. I don't know if he's a progressive. He certainly has courage to speak the truth, but he's absolutely so speaking the truth there. So if Harris, Biden actually win without answering questions, without actually probably not even debating anymore, and without actually campaigning, it will be because the media has gone totally in the tank as anti-Trump and thus pro-Biden. They have gotten trillions, not billions, but trillions of dollars of free media over the last 3 or 4 years. And think about this. They talk about the polling. The fact that Donald Trump, whether you believe the polls or not, is even polling above zero is amazing when you consider all the things that have been against him. When you consider the total amount of money, and like I said before, you can't piss off people like Mark Twain said that buy ink by the barrel. He's talking about the media. And Donald Trump has done just that. He's up against people that own the media completely, pretty much lock, stock, and barrel. All right, continue on with this as much time as we have. The Green New Deal, that was the thing. During the Democratic primary, the proposal became a litmus test for candidates. Ms. Harris was a sponsor of the Green New Deal. You wondering if she's for the Green New Deal? She was a sponsor of it. Biden has it on his website, for God's sakes, man. And so, let me just say this. They're for the Green New Deal. There's just no way. I don't even have to get into all this. I'll save us both some time. Biden is for the Green New Deal. It's on his website. Kamala Harris was the Senate sponsor. The task force that Biden put together was chaired by Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, come on. A blind man could see that they're for the Green New Deal, and that's not going to be all that. And as far as what the implications will be, if Biden is elected, well, we got a meme here. It's actually not even a meme. It's a reality that it shows gas prices. The last time that Joe Biden held office as vice president, can we put that? Look at that. This is what the gas price was when Biden was last president. Here where I live, it's below $2 a gallon now. So understand this. You're going to get your taxes raised and the gas price is going through the roof, man. Fracking. Now, the next thing they talk about is Biden says he's opposed to fracking, and she, one or the other. Of course, Harris has come out fracking. But Harris she's all about fracking. She fracked her way. Billy Bob, if you hadn't met my psychic sidekick, you just kind of psychically connect to me. He says he's my psychic sidekick. He's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. He tells me that I'm getting my words mixed up, that the fracking, to ban fracking. So she's been opposed to it and said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking, is what she told CNN in a town hall event in 2019. That's all that matters, that she's for it, because she's going to be head of the ticket. Everybody knows that. And winning is all that matters. Believe me, Biden can say whatever he wants, but if you're in Pennsylvania and your job depends on whether fracking comes, if you vote for Biden, you're voting to eliminate your job, man. As evidence that Biden was not the threat to jobs that Mr. Trump made him out to be, according to this New York Times, Mr. Lamb pointed to Mr. Biden's endorsement from the International Union of Operating Engineers, a local union that has endorsed him, and they are into fracking. But let me just tell you, your members, how are the members going to vote? Because the unions are all pretty much behind Joe Biden. The Democrats, they just have to be. The real question, whether you're being in Michigan or whether you're in Pennsylvania or all parts in between, how are your union members going to vote? Because remember this, union members, Donald Trump is the one that brought your jobs back, not Barack Obama. He said, him and Biden said, they ain't coming back. You have to have a magic wand. Well, apparently Trump had one called a spine. And if you believe in anything Second Amendment related, oh my God, which I know a lot of unions, especially construction union members, believe in, take the Democrats at their word. They're coming for your guns. There is just no doubt about this. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. We're out of time. We're going to keep bringing you the news straightforward because this is a choice election, and it really is about tyranny versus freedom now. That's really the choice you have. Go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, share it with others. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this United States of America and our great president. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.